HarperCollins presents Under a Greek Moon by Kirkwood, read by Aoife Mcmahon. Afterward read by Kirkwood. Prologue. The young woman looked out across the sea from her room, high up above what passed for a main thoroughfare on the small island of Ithos. From her vantage point, she could see the bustle of the harbour, but was spared the heat of the midday sun and the throng of holidaymakers who swarmed the narrow streets, here on trips from the larger islands of Crete and Rhodes. The room was sparse, furnished in the traditional Greek way: terracotta tiles on the floor, a simple bed, a pine dresser, crisp white sheets, shutters on the window. A light breeze lifted the thin voile curtain, which swirled around her like a veil, before hanging limp once more. She drank in the sight below, fishermen hailing each other across the boats which lined the jetty, each man moving with a rhythm handed down from the generations before them, mooring their boats, hauling their nets, passing their precious cargo of sardines and mackerel from ship to shore. Watching them, it seemed to her that nothing had changed here for centuries. She turned away, tugging the rucksack zipper closed, which was already carefully packed with everything she needed, and turned to survey the room one last time. Catching sight of the postcard lying next to the bag, she picked it up and reread the words that were so familiar she could recite them by heart. "Always have hope. We have our dreams. Don't wait for me." She turned the postcard between her fingertips, looking again at the image on the reverse, the shot of Ithos, a Greek island idyll with its white beaches and sapphire sea, cobbled streets lined with traditional buildings, and behind them the craggy hills of the interior, always changing, always the same. With a sigh, she propped the postcard up on the dresser, no longer wishing to keep it. She didn't need it now. The words were indelibly etched in her mind. She would never, could never forget them. Then she heard the clatter of footsteps on the stone staircase leading up to the room, a knock at the door. She took one last look at the postcard and turned to answer the door. Part 1. Chapter 1. Los Angeles, September 2000. Shauna Jackson adjusted her dark glasses, even though there was no need for them, with the early morning light barely penetrating the windows of Los Angeles International Airport. She checked her watch, impatient to reclaim her luggage and board the limousine that would take her home. Home, she thought. What a mass of contradictions that threw up. She had just stepped off a plane from Ireland, a place that hadn't been home for years. But, as the old adage said, you can take the girl out of Enniscray. There were times, and today was one of them, when she felt like an imposter in L.A. As if Shauna Jackson, award-winning actress, widow of Dan Jackson, the director's director, was a fraud, and at any moment she'd be stripped of her Golden Globes and Emmys and sent back to Enniscray with her tail between her legs, an outcome which would undoubtedly please her mother. She shivered, wondering if the drizzle and mist of the west coast of Ireland had got into her bones, or maybe there was still a little shard of ice left in her heart that even the rising heat of California couldn't melt. If only her father were here to sprinkle some of his magical optimism over her. She could imagine him telling her, "Come on, Shauna, buck up. There's joy and happiness underneath every paving stone if you'd only take a look." Instead, she was alone, and though she had wealth and all the trappings of fame, it couldn't shield her from the humiliation and anguish. "Oh, Dan, why did you do it?" Shauna peered through her Chanel sunglasses, surveying the baggage claim area to see if anyone had recognized her. There had been a time when she would have smiled and been happy to sign autographs, but today she'd employed all...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?